that way you can start to tie in all of this information of how you use it in each unique scenario. So welcome back to those of you watching this in the replay or joining late to What's Cooking Good Looking, my summer live healthy happy hour cooking class where we cook seasonal foods and I share my knowledge around healing, natural pain and inflammation relief using Ayurveda and whole foods and my love of food in general and eating, being foodie. So Jana has been with me through this and for many years beyond, and we love hanging out in the kitchen. And today I selected a recipe that is a bit heating, which I wouldn't typically suggest for summer months, depending on where you live in the world and maybe what your personal mind body type and physiology is. You may or may not be able to follow the recipe as it was emailed to you. You can also modify it, which I'll talk about ways to do that today. We're working with poblano peppers today, which are a type of chili pepper. It's a mild chili pepper, and my local grocer didn't have any today. So I'm actually using two suggested alternatives. One is called the Anaheim pepper, which looks very similar in shape in that it's a bit more slender than your typical red bell pepper. And that's the other alternative. So I got one Anaheim and one green bell pepper as my substitutes for today's poblano peppers. You work with what you've got. And of course, if you are someone working with pitta imbalances or you're sensitive to nightshades like peppers in general, then maybe you want to adapt and either not use this recipe or go with the green bell pepper, which will be the most mild of them all. So we're going to begin this recipe by roasting our peppers. And since I'm using a small quantity and I don't want to heat my whole house up by turning the oven on, I'm using my toaster oven. So I'm going to, instead of roasting the peppers whole, I'm going to slice them, de-seed them, put a coating of olive oil on them, and then roast them. So preheat your toaster oven or oven to 475. And for today's recipe, you will need a food processor for the mole sauce, as well as a medium size saute pan. You'll also need a medium size saucepan for the quinoa. So we're basically going to be roasting these peppers and stuffing them with our quinoa and black bean spiced mixture. So it's a really pretty nutritionally packed dish tonight. It is pretty warming. It is brajastic because we are working with a bit of peppers and warming spices, stimulating spices like paprika and cayenne pepper, both of which you might choose to omit or modify in smaller quantities today based on your own wisdom and what your needs are with managing the fire element. We're also going to be using a bit of garlic and some onion in this recipe. Again, more rajastic foods. So use your intuitive sense of how much of these ingredients you want to use. I've never made a mole sauce, so I'm actually kind of excited to do that today. And I know that Latin American and Central American food can involve a lot of those pungent tastes like garlic. So we'll be using a bit of it today, and use your wisdom and how you want to adapt. All right. You can also make a cilantro chutney as a nice condiment and side dish to this meal today to help balance out that heat. I also might serve this with a side of freshly sliced avocado, which is a nice complement to this dish tonight also. So let's get started. I've got my toaster oven preheating, and I'm going to start just by washing and slicing and de-seeding, just halving my peppers really lengthwise and keeping enough of a rim on them so it's like a little bowl or boat to hold the quinoa. wanted to honor some of the local ingredients and cuisine where I now live in Colorado, where there is a heavy Chicano influence on the cuisine here. So there's lots of green chili peppers on the menus at nearly every restaurant. Lots of tamales and pupusas, common ingredients you'll find in restaurants around here in Colorado Springs. I will say also that it's really nice as a Latina myself to just see so many more street names with Spanish names. It's such a little tiny thing, but you know, representation matters. And when I run my errands, a smile comes across my face every time I cross Cucharas Street or turn right on Rio Grande or some of the other wonderful Spanish names here. So we're going to honor that influence tonight with this menu, which might be a little more heating. So because of that heating quality of the peppers and the pungency of the garlic and onion, these ingredients would particularly be good at breaking up stagnation or heaviness in the body or excess mucus in the body. If you've got a slow, sluggish digestion, this might be a favorable dish to make to allow you a bit of stoking to that digestive fire in the belly. And we're only going to roast the peppers for about 10 minutes or so, just enough to start to soften them. And then we'll take them out and set them aside. But before you roast them, do make sure you coat them in a little bit of olive oil or coconut oil, maybe ghee if you prefer. We're using quinoa as our grain tonight, which is very balancing to all three of the Ayurveda doshas or mind body types. Very high in protein, makes it pretty favorable grain for vegetarians and vegans alike. It's an ancient grain that's been around for thousands of years in South America and Central America. Once you've got your peppers oiled and in the oven, go ahead and measure out 3/4 of a cup of quinoa. Maybe start washing or rinsing that in a saucepan. We're gonna cook our quinoa tonight in some low sodium veggie broth. About 1.5 cups of broth to your 3/4 cup of uncooked quinoa. Bring that to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, lower the heat to low, cover, and simmer for about 30-35 minutes until the quinoa is cooked. And you see that little ring of the wheat germ around the quinoa. That's how you know it's done. Which, by the way, look guys, this weekend I went shopping and there's this great shop in Old Colorado City where they have all these hand painted terracotta pots and tins from Mexico. And I got a new spoon rest, which makes me very happy today. So
spoon rests are essential, right?
they are, and this just makes me happy, you know, feeding the sense organs and feeding my eyes with this happy pattern and color. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so let me just refill my salt container here. We've got our quinoa started and our peppers in the oven roasting, yes?
Yep.
All right. So while the quinoa cooks, we're going to start prepping some of the other ingredients. So you're going to mince 3 cloves of garlic. And chop 1/2 cup of almonds. And again, if you want to modify, you could use fewer cloves of garlic. I find that if the garlic is well cooked, it generally tends to be less rajastic because the process of cooking it itself transforms it less pungent from a pungent substance to a sweet substance. If you've ever had roasted garlic, it actually can taste sweet, right? So Agni has actually transformed the gunas and qualities of this substance. So for those that might be sensitive to garlic, you could just try cooking it more thoroughly, and that will remove more of its pungency. Also, if you do not want to use an onion, as this recipe calls for, you could use something less pungent. Maybe you could use some shallots or some scallions, right? Just think similar family, similar taste, but less potency on the spectrum. So just different ways you can modify.
Which kind of onion did it suggest? Did it suggest a red over a white?
It
or a
did not.
yellow?
It did not. So I chose red because that's my personal preference. I find them to be a little sweeter than the white Vidalia, you know, like big white ones. And I got a pretty small one too. So that way I'm just using a little, you know, smaller portion than maybe what would be used here as my own modification. So I'm gonna go ahead and mince my 3 cloves of garlic here while my quinoa just is about to start to boil. It's not quite there yet. We know from previous cooking classes that our garlic is superhero and anti-inflammatory and antiviral and fungal properties. All right, my quinoa is starting to boil here, so I'm going to turn that down. Cover. I'm going to chop up my almonds. It's half a cup of chopped almonds you want. Just gonna check on my peppers. I hear lots of hissing. Sure nothing's on fire. In addition to quinoa being one of the super ingredients or superfoods of tonight's menu, black beans also have quite a bit of therapeutic value. We know black beans are great as other beans for our fiber content, right? They're a smaller bean than some others, so they're less inclined to create more bloating or gas. You can also soak beans if you're cooking them from a dry state tonight. I'm using canned beans tonight, but if you are using dry beans, typically you want to soak them in some cool water for at least 30 minutes before cooking. That can help reduce any gassiness and bloating. You can also add just a pinch of what is called asafoetida or hing, H-I-N-G, which is an Ayurvedic resin, kind of in the spice section, if you will, that helps mitigate the airy effects of all beans. So black beans are delicioso. And I've got some factoids here I'm just going to refer to. Forgive my breaking eye contact here. But black beans are loaded with thiamine, niacin, folate, vitamins E and K, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, calcium, and they are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids. So that's a lot for one little bean, right? And it goes on to say in the research that I found that black beans, when eaten regularly by elderly men, meaning in 60s and beyond, then it helps with erectile function and sexual drive. So who knew black beans were an aphrodisiac, a rosciana for sexual health in men? So I found that pretty interesting factoid to come across. Also, black beans have a lot of flavonoids, which work, some of which are really great antioxidants to fight the effects of free radicals in the body. So it really is an anti-aging superfood, and getting those free radicals taken care of in the body and making sure we stay pretty healthy. And generally you want your almonds to be without the skin, you know, and preferably unroasted, just raw. If you're done chopping your almonds and you're waiting for me, go ahead and rinse and drain your black beans. Rinse some fresh cilantro leaves and start measuring out half a cup of those. You know, almonds is a sattvic food. It's like Jen is having some internet issues.
Sorry, Chris, I got booted out. It's kind of stormy here. What did I miss? Did I miss anything?
Nope, I was just rinsing and draining my beans,
Okay.
catching up to chopping my almonds, which I'm now caught up to. You can start plucking out half a cup of fresh cilantro leaves. Pretty much just preparing the rest of the ingredients to toss into that cooked quinoa once it's ready. I've also got some leftover flat parsley from our last recipe, so I'm gonna throw some of that in there too, and just, why not, add some green to my mixture. We know from our previous cooking session how much of a powerhouse parsley is for bone health and minerals. Keep a close eye, maybe check on your peppers if you hear them sizzling. We don't want to cook them completely because we're going to continue roasting them after we've stuffed them. But we do want them soft, so maybe just give them a quick look, maybe a turn.
Mine are pretty soft. I'm gonna take mine out.
Right. Set those peppers aside. Come back, chop and peel your onion. Really just getting the rest of things prepped for mole. I could not find what was it? Chipotle pepper. So I grabbed a jalapeno pepper. So this will be my little bit of heat since I'm also using a bell pepper. So feel free to experiment. Whatever peppers you're using at home, and just be sure to observe the effects. See how your body responds. Maybe serve this with an herb yogurt on the side as a nice balancing condiment to any of this heat. Is it still raining on the East Coast, Jana? Yeah.
We had a nice day yesterday and Scott and I went to the Cape and did a little bike riding and swimming. But today was kind of cloudy and rainy.
Yeah. Okay. And my quinoa is almost done cooking. I can see some of the rings forming around the germ there, but there's still a bit of broth. So I'm gonna let that finish off in the next 10 minutes here. Once that's done, you're gonna add your minced garlic cloves into it with the almonds, black beans, and your spices, your salt, your cumin, your paprika, your cayenne, the cilantro, and make a nice salad, basically, with the almonds and the beans and all these wonderful spices. So some of you might be wondering what adobo is. That was one of the ingredients on the spice list for your shopping. And adobo is essentially a lot of garlic powder and salt. Usually it may or may not have black pepper or even cumin mixed into it, but it's a really basic spice mix used in a lot of Latin cooking. And I know I grew up with big fat jars of Goya's adobo in my kitchen. So if you don't have adobo, know that you could substitute with garlic salt, garlic powder, black pepper. That's essentially what it is. So I need just a few more minutes. So in the meantime, I'm gonna finish mincing my remaining 3 cloves of garlic, which will be used for the mole sauce. The garlic I've already chopped will go in with the quinoa and the beans. And again, you can choose to omit this entirely if you want, or use something less pungent. You might have some leftover cooling masala mix from a few weeks ago. We made a batch of that for one of our recipes. Maybe use that. Let these recipes be inspirations for you in the kitchen to play around with taste and flavor and do so intelligently, knowing the effects of these ingredients. You could also substitute other fillers in with these ingredients, by the way. Maybe black beans and quinoa is not your jam. Maybe you need to put in some ground beyond meat, right? Or use some kind of sausage or meat substitute. That could be an alternative as well. That would be very balancing and not too heating for the summer months. If quinoa is not your jam, then try white basmati rice. Use these as guidelines. Check here on the quinoa. Great. I'm going to turn the heat off. Let that stand for a moment. I'm going to add my chopped garlic. My half a cup of chopped almonds. My drained and rinsed black beans. A little bit of salt, about half a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon of ground cumin. That might have to actually grind. teaspoon of smoked paprika. And if you're using cayenne, just the tiniest little pinch, like 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm gonna catch up here and pound my cumin seeds in my mortar and pestle. That. Quarter teaspoon of my smoked paprika. So good. Cilantro, herbs. And about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. So you'll mix it all together. Give that a nice fold and mix with your quinoa. Oh, it looks pretty. I'm using a tri-colored quinoa. I had like maybe a 1/4 cup of leftover red quinoa and some plain, so I just mixed them together for tonight. This is a vegan and gluten-free version we're making tonight. So it works with a lot of elimination diets and those that might be sensitive, at least the stuffing, you could put this in a bed of sauteed greens and that would be delicious too, I bet. All right, so go ahead and stuff your peppers with your mixed quinoa. Then you're going to put them back in the oven at 475 for about 10 minutes while we make the quick mole sauce. Give you guys at home a look at what the mixture looks like. When you mix that all together, we've got quite an assortment. It looks really delicious. I could eat it just like that. Smells good too. I'm going to use a smaller tablespoon here so I can stuff these with a little bit more accuracy. I was also thinking, instead of peppers, you could use acorn squash, right? That would be a nice pitta balancing cup, if you will, that you could stuff with this mixture as an alternative. to the pepper. I like that my quinoa is a little moist, so I can kind of pack it and shape it into a nice mound, filling these peppers pretty well. My gosh, you could probably you can make zucchini boats and stuff those with this mix and use a mole sauce over that. That would be a nice variation as well. Yeah, I could see lots of options there, so. All right. So, once I got them stuffed, I think I'm gonna put just the final drizzle of olive oil on top before I put them back into the oven. And then you're gonna pull out another saucepan for your mole sauce. I don't have a second medium-sized saucepan, so I'm gonna use a saute pan myself. I hope that works. Go, stuffed peppers going into the oven. And move on. Medium heat, a little bit of olive oil, saute your onion and garlic. You're just gonna cook those for about 5 minutes, just to soften them up before you add in your pepper and your spices. Just do the garlic and onion for 5 or 6 minutes first. I'm just thinking, looking at my leftover quinoa salad here, you could throw fresh corn kernels in there. That would be a nice ingredient, I think. Complementary to everything we're doing here. All right. Get my onion and garlic going here. you ever been to Mexico, Jana? Or other parts of Central or South America?
Yeah. I've been to Mexico. I went to Cancun a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago. And Puerto Rico too. A bunch of my friends live there.
In PR?
Yeah.
Nice. They're still getting up to heat here. But once your onions and garlics are beginning to get translucent, after about 5 minutes or so, add in your pepper and your remaining spices. That'll be your adobo, your tomato puree, your cumin, your cinnamon, your chocolate chips. If you bought chips, I actually bought raw cacao nibs at my natural grocer store. Those tend to be a bit more enriched with antioxidants, being closer to the source, closer to swasta than the semi-sweet chocolate chips that you'll find in the grocery stores baking. Generally, always go for the bitter sweet chocolate chips when you are baking or using that. Again, medicinally, use that bitter taste. A lot more cumin for the mole sauce. That'll be 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. Half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Half a teaspoon of salt. Add your tomato puree. About 8 ounces. 3 tablespoons or teaspoons, excuse me, of your chocolate. 3 tablespoons. It is tablespoons. Sorry about that. And you're just gonna mix that until the chocolate melts. Oh, that smells amazing. I hope yours smells amazing too. And once the chips have melted and integrated, go ahead and take it off the heat, let it cool for a few moments, and then we're gonna put it in the food processor and blend it silky smooth. Or if you have one of those immersion blenders, you could probably do that right in the saucepan you're using. I forgot my 2 tablespoons of adobo. And you can add little splashes of water as you're blending that in your blender just to get it to your desired consistency. Ooh, that mole smells really good. Going in my food processor. And I'm certainly going to add a little bit of water because mine is very thick, almost like a paste. mute myself before I put my blender on. Right. Got a nice looking sauce here. Here's my mole sauce after being blended in. Mine looks kind of red in color, not quite as brown. I think maybe because my cacao nibs did not quite melt, like they softened, but because I had the raw cacao nibs, it didn't quite have the same melting effect that maybe the chips would. So I'm curious. Did you use the chips yourself, Jenna? How'd they look?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, so not too far off in color, that's for sure, from mine. So I know I'm not totally off track, right?
Right, no, it's a little brownish red.
Yeah, a little brown red, a little like the earth itself here. Go ahead and to plate, you're going to actually take a ladle or a few spoonfuls and put that on the plate first, and then put your stuffed pepper on top of that. Finish with maybe a few fresh sprigs of cilantro, wedge of lime, maybe your sliced avocado. And then drizzle more of your mole sauce across the top. Season to taste. You can add salt or cinnamon or anything else you feel might be missing. Nice. And when you're done plating, hold it up to the camera so we can see you at home. This lively creation. Again, you can serve with a dollop of herb yogurt or plain yogurt on the side. You can use more cooling spices like fennel seeds or coriander seeds in your mix. You can use anything other than pepper. You could use acorn squash to stuff with this instead. That would go pair really well with the black beans and all of that. So here is my version of my plated stuffed peppers and quick mole sauce. So Give you a few minutes, Jana, to get yourself plated. And you can save this mole sauce and reheat it, reuse it the next day or two. We have one more week of this cooking series next Wednesday, where we close this out and I prepare for my next offering in August, which may be a 3 or 5 day challenge. So be on the lookout for the next August offering. So you can keep practicing these daily healing habits and keep getting a sense of what this lifestyle might be able to offer you, and meet like-minded people who are doing these practices and supporting you along the way. Okay, let's see it. Nice. Bravo. And some avocado in there too, I see. Excellent. Excellent. Buen provecho. Enjoy. And for all of you at home, thanks for catching the replay and being a part of this mini community the last 2 months. And hopefully I'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, girl.